Welcome back. A couple of minutes ago we finished up Day 2, Part 1 of the 2017 Advent of Code puzzle. Got our gold star. So we're going to continue on to the second part of Day 2. And in this part it says the program is worried and we need to, instead of figuring out the difference between the largest and smallest values, we want to figure out what is the result of the division between the only two numbers in each row that evenly divide one another. So in the example here we've got 5, 9, 2, 8 in the first row. The only two that divide evenly are 2 and 8, and the result of that is 4. And then the next one we have 9 and 3, and dividing that we get 3. And for the third we have the result is 2 because of 6 and 3. So then we add those up and that becomes our new checksum. So we have a row already and we can use that. I think that would be a good place to find, actually to do most of the work probably, right? It needs to be able to find numbers that are evenly divisible within itself and then divide those and return the result, right? So let's get on to it. So we'll go back over to Day 2's row spec, and actually before I do that, I'll make a new little marker here. Get checkout dash B, Day 2, Part 2. So from this point forward, we're working on Part 2. If you're just joining, what I end up doing with this is I push this all up to GitHub as individual commits, and we've got loads of them. So for the first part, we were able to get done with 20 commits, and now we'll see how many more commits it takes to get us to finishing Part 2. And then I will take all of those and squash them and push those up and check those into master, and then leave the step-by-step like I did here on Day 1. So if you want to see exactly what commits and where it worked and follow along exactly with what happened and what commits were made, you have that as an option. All right. So now we are in the data loader spec. For some reason shows is not saved. Why is that? Oh yeah, because even though we got the right answer, I didn't go back and fix this. So let's fix this. This is, I guess, technically part of Day 2, Part 1, but that's all working now. And now we're really working on Day 2, or yeah, Day 2, Part 2. All right, so spreadsheet row. Spreadsheet row, we have a check difference, but we want go back all the way out. We have the spreadsheet checksum, and the checksum we have our normal checksum, and then we want our evenly divisible checksum. So we'll do public function get evenly. What am I doing? This is test-driven development, right? We need to go to the checksum spec and actually define how it ought to work. So we'll say public function, it will calculate evenly divisible checksums. And I think our example has 3 rows. We may as well use that here. So we'll do spreadsheet row 1, spreadsheet row 2, and spreadsheet row 3. All right, and we want row 1 get even or get divisible checksum. We'll return, what was it, 4. So right now I'm doing the easy bits, right? I'm saying, well, how does the spreadsheet deal with this? Well, that's really simple to kind of reason through. But the harder one is, well, how am I going to figure out which ones are evenly divisible? But we're leaving that work for the next object, the actual row. So the next one was a 3, and row 3. And again, I'm just defining behavior, and right now I'm defining behavior on an interface, which means that PHPSpec is going to be able to update our interface for us. I should get rid of this for now. But I get up. So we have the result is 2. And then we want to add all of those, so we'll add them. We'll use the exact same thing because nothing new there, nothing weird or different. So add row 1, row 2, and row 3. And then get evenly divisible checksum should be 9. Okay, so now we run and get some code. Oh, that was the wrong thing to run. Let's try this again. Run code. All right, so we don't have a spreadsheet row method for get divisible checksum. So create that, and now we get a fatal error, right? Because our interface says that our row object should have this thing that it doesn't have. So we need to go get that sorted out. So in our spreadsheet row, we have our new function, and we're going to comment that like before. Returns the result of dividing the only two evenly divisible numbers in a row. And it returns an int, and we'll type int an int. And so this doesn't make anything work, right? It's still broken. It says, and it fatal errors, right? Even fatal errors everywhere because we've got this thing that says it should implement a thing, and we haven't. So now if we go in here, PHP Storm says, hey dummy, you didn't finish this. So we'll say add method stubs, we get our docs, and we'll make it happy in that it's matching the interface. So we don't get a fatal error anymore, but we do get a failed test, which is totally fine. This should get us to the next step, which will build some more code for us. And this is in our checksum. So it's the get evenly divisible checksum. Yes, we want to build it. And now we get our actual failure. If we change this to 9, I believe it works. No, it doesn't. Get evenly divisible checksum should be 9. Why is that not 9? What is even happening right now? Get evenly divisible checksum, which, oh, because I'm looking at the wrong stupid one, that's why. Alright, let's find that one. So this one we're not even using. We just needed to have it in place. But this one is where it's expecting there to be a 9. So we're going to do a return of 9. And that works. But obviously this is not the answer, right? If we were to submit that, I think the creator of Advent of Code would laugh at us, right? It's totally wrong, but that's okay, we're not done yet. So now we've got the test, or a portion of the test, right? We're only using the sums. Let's do one more test. We'll do, it will calculate evenly divisible checksums, part 2. Alright, I'm going to copy this. And this time I'm going to go ahead and do the random tests, I guess. So do random int 1 to 10,000 and another one. Alright, so we've got our 3 random values. Let's set up the behaviors. So we'll say row 1 get divisible checksum will return value 0. Copy these in, change that, change that, change that, change that. And now we will say add all of those. So, why don't we copy paste, because we can do that. Alright, so now we have all the rows added, and we'll say this get evenly divisible checksum should be, and we'll use array sum. We could use a collection here as well, but in this case I'm going to go ahead and just say array sum of values. And we've got an undefined offset 3 because I typoed there. That should be a 2. We run, and now our fake value of 9 is no longer working for us. We need to actually build some real implementation. And this is going to look very, very, very similar to get checksum, right? Because all the work is happening on the actual row. So we get to defer to later. So we'll do this rows sum. We're going to have a spreadsheet row, and instead of returning check difference, we'll do get divisible checksum and semicolon there. Execute that. That should mean we're getting commits again. And sure enough, we are. And we've now got our spreadsheet built. Our loader already loads. So that part's working. The only thing we need to do now is actually make the row do the right thing. So we'll go to the row object spec, and we'll give it some examples that we need to implement. So it should get even checksum for 2 and 8. So we'll say this be constructed with, and we'll put in an 8 and some tab, and a 7 and a tab, and a 3 and a tab, and a 2. And then get divisible checksum should be 4. And that should be failing. And if we run that, must be of type integer, none returned. So this is where I was putting that first 9, where it needs to go now. Row, there we go. Nope, row object. I forget what I just literally typed. 4. Okay. Save, run, great. So let's do another example so that no longer works. So we'll copy this over, and we'll say for 9 and 3, so we'll put in a 9 in a different spot, and we'll make this 25 because no reason at all. We run that, that should fail. We expected a 3, we got a 4. So now we need to actually figure out what are our 2 evenly divisible numbers in our row, right? So I feel like if if we take, let's see, I think this is the naive approach, but it might be the way to start with. So if we look at the first value in the row, and then iterate through the rest of the values in the row, and see if any of them are evenly divisible, then we stop, and then if not, we keep going to the next value, and we do it with every value after it, right? So we'll say for, say first equals 0, and this is our index, right? First less than count of values. First, how about plus plus? And then our second one for second equals, we want it to start at the one after first, so first plus 1. Second is less than count of this values, which also indicates that it probably, I don't need to go all the way to the end here. I actually need to go one less than the end, because second is going to be ending at the final one. And we'll add second plus plus, and then we'll have our two numbers. So num1 equals values first, and num2 equals values second. And then if num1 mod num2 is equal to 0, or num2, do it the opposite order, num2 mod num1 is equal to 0, then we're going to return the result of that division, but we don't know which one, so this might not be the best approach. Maybe we need to order them, and so we know which one's bigger and which one's smaller. Let's see, so we can do if num2 is greater than num1, then we will swap them. So we'll say temp equals num2, num2 equals num1, num1 equals temp. Right, so now number 1 and number 2 should have swapped, and now we only need to do one of these, and if it is divisible, then we will return num1 divided by num2. And we got green. So that works. There's a couple of things that it's telling me are not ideal, I suppose. Alright, so one is using \count, I guess that's one part. And then the other one is reducing the repetitive calls. So count of values isn't going to change. So it's telling us use second max of count values, but we can just do count equals count this values, and then replace that here with count, and here with count. That should still be working. Alright, so this feels a little bit dirty, but it seems like it will work. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to brain enough right now to come up with a better solution just yet, but it is, you know, it's advent of code. We don't have to have the best code ever. So now let's go back to data loader and make another test on it to see if we can solve day 2, right? So we'll go to data loader spec, and we'll say pub function, it will solve day 2 part 2. So again, almost all the same, except for build checksum is the same. It's not get checksum, it's get evenly divisible checksum. And again, I have no idea what the answer is, so I'll just leave it as 48,357. And let's run it. And it fails, so we get 351. So let's try 351 for the answer. 351. And we got another gold star. So that ends day 2, part 2 of the 2017 Advent of Code with PHP and TDD with PHPSpec. I feel like I said we would refactor a thing. I don't remember what that was. So I'm going to not do that right now. If you want to see whatever the refactoring was and you're watching the video, leave a comment or get a hold of me somehow and say, hey, I really want to see you refactor this thing. And I'd be happy to do that. I just have no idea what that was right now. It's a little too much of a long day today, and I'm not braining great. So anyway, thank you for watching, and I'll see you on the next one, which is hopefully not too long from now. Bye.